Everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and today we have Survivor premiere. I could not be more excited. It's a long anticipated season of Survivor 50. We did the draft last week. We've been all pumped up, ready for this for so long, and it's finally here. A 3 hour premiere, lots to get into. Molly, first of all, how are you?
Good. Just enjoying the weekend and obviously still on a high from the Survivor 50 premiere. And also, just we'll talk about this also the Traders finale in the next episode. So, we got a lot of reality TV this week, which was exciting to end out February, which was a short month, but a lot to pack into the last week of February.
Oh my God, this last week of reality TV was nuts because we had not only Survivor 50, we had Survivor Australia also started, first three episodes of that aired. Then we had Traders. Then we had House of Villains, first three episodes also dropped. It was a wild week for especially competition reality TV, and we can't get into all of it, unfortunately. I was really hoping that we could maybe cover House of Villains. It's just too much. At some point, I really hope to cover it because it was a very, very fun three episodes. But with all that, we have to talk about Survivor 50, of course.
Yes.
So, are you ready to get into this premiere, Molly?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Well, first, let's just kind of get our overall thoughts on what we saw. I really loved this premiere. The first like 5 minutes, and maybe it wasn't quite 5 minutes, but it was a long time that they did just a whole like montage of highlights of everything. And it got me a little bit emotional because it's like this show has been on for 26 years and I haven't watched it since the very beginning, but like the show has been a part of my life since I was 9 years old. And it was just watching all those moments. And it's just like it really took me back. But this episode was so hyped. People had such high expectations for it. Do you think that it lived up to those expectations overall?
I think so. I really enjoyed the whole premiere. I also like the beginning part of the montage and flashbacks and all of that. They did a really good job of bringing that and really just setting the scene for 50 and and then also with Jeff asking the questions about how survivors impacted their lives, like that also kind of made me emotional of like thinking back to like how we've seen these people from years past, now they're back here on our screens. And so that really made me excited for this premiere. And I feel like also seeing them now all together on the island and just playing and already off the bat strategy talks and everything happening. I feel like we got a lot out of this episode. Of course, the end wasn't ideal, but out of everything else, I think it was a great episode.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this last week with Matt that when the cast was first announced, people had very strong feelings about it. A lot of them were quite negative, saying that how could you forget this person? Why is this person needed? Like, why do we need so many people from the new era? There was so much criticism about it, but I do feel like as time has gone on, that those critiques have slightly diminished. Not that people's feelings have necessarily changed about it, but just I think like we've kind of come to accept it and that okay, we're not going to get certain people that I think some of us had hoped to get. And that has switched to a lot of excitement. And I do think that this premiere continued with that trajectory of just like I think the tone of it was great where it was so celebratory. It was so it was such a good I think representation of how far this show has come since the year 2000 and not every era was represented. We have nobody from the 20s, which sucks a little bit because I think it would be nice to really be able to say that we had every era of this show represented, which we don't quite. But I do think we have someone from 1 to 49, and I do think that it was just so cool, such a fever dream to really see some of these people interact, and I think that all in all, it was a really really fun 3 hours.
Yes, very much agreed.
Well, we do, like I mentioned, get a montage of highlights from everything from the first 49 seasons. We get, as you mentioned, that the cast talks with Jeff, and we hear from people like Suri and just people like Colby like, talking about how this show, how much the show means to them, and did any specific part of it stand out to you in particular?
I think Cerie's moment did for me in particular. I remember her part. I'm trying to think back, and I just liked it as a whole. Like I feel like it was
Yeah.
just like a sweet moment of just hearing everyone's stories.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that apparently there were other moments from it. Mike Bloom did a podcast with Rob where he was kind of talking. The press was on location during this,
Yeah.
and he was talking about some moments that were left out where more people got emotional than just Cerie. Cerie wasn't even the first person to get emotional. I think he said it was Ozzy was actually the first person to cry, and
Okay.
so we didn't see some of that. Of course, they're always out there for much longer than we see, and we just see the highlights. But yeah, I think that this really set the tone for me, this moment where it was like, I think sometimes there's uh seasons where we might have returning players, but that's almost like it's just kind of a normal season where there happen to be returning players. And like, no, like this is 50. This is different. This is an anniversary season. It felt like almost the most epic like start to me than we probably have seen since Heroes versus Villains, which was a great premiere, an amazing season start to the season. I would say that probably since then this was like the most that I really felt that, and it was very cool because that was 16 years ago by itself. So really really cool to see that again so many years later.
Yes, for sure.
Then Jeff gets to handing out the buffs. There was some talk about like, oh, this felt random. No, they had names on them. The tribes were not random. They were planned out beforehand for those wondering. And we get to the first, before we get to the challenge, actually, Jeff reveals the results of some of the fan votes. So if you recall, during Survivor 48, we had week by week, we got the chance to vote on certain aspects of Survivor 50. There were some were more impactful than others. Some of them were, what do we want the colors of the buffs to be? They didn't even mention that, but that was something that we got to vote on. Do you remember what you voted for at all for any of these votes?
Yeah, I do remember. I think I voted for the one that had the pink and whatever the colors they are
Yeah.
are orange
It was a
and
little
teal.
different than the colors that we saw in the vote. Like, it were a little lighter shades, which I actually like better. So I was very
Okay.
happy with this.
Yeah, and I remember voting for them, I think, to have rice and supplies. Like, I know the votes were really close on that, so that was interesting that I was like, oh, I don't mind if they start with what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you mentioned, that was the first two results that we get, whether they get rice and whether they get supplies. Apparently, we voted for no on both of those. I am with you. I voted for yes on both of those. And here's why. I think we might have talked about it at the time, but I vote that I think we get better TV when these people have more energy. And when they don't have anything, no supplies, no rice, no nothing, these people are miserable and they're low energy. And I think that you need that like brain power to really like strategize. And I think sometimes when they're just like so hungry and so miserable, they're just like, I don't care what happens. Like, vote out whoever. Like, and I think sometimes you maybe get more simple votes just because they don't literally have the energy to think about the more complex options and talk out every scenario. And yeah, I mean, it didn't seem, we're still early on, so I think it's to be seen whether that will impact in any way. And of course, they get rewards along the way. So, who knows if it's going to have a really much impact at all. But I did vote yes for both of those two.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that. With this, just the fact that they need to have energy to strategize and make more entertaining TV. So hopefully they won't be so drained soon.
Yeah. Well, then we do get to the first challenge. The tribes compete for fire in the form of flint as well as a bonfire. Vatu, the pink tribe, ends up winning. Actually, before we move on, I should, I think, say who's on each tribe for those who. It's hard to keep track sometimes in the early days. So on the pink tribe, the Vatu tribe, we have Angelina, Aubrey, Colby, Genevieve, Kyle, Q, Rizzo, and Stephanie. On the blue Kello tribe, we have Charlie, Chrissy, Coach, D, Jonathan, Camilla, Mike, and Tiffany. And then on the Orange Sela tribe, we have Christian, Sari, Emily, Jenna, Joe, Ozzy, Rick, and Savannah. So that just kind of sets the scene for who's on each of those tribes. So the pink tribe, Vatu, ends up winning this. It really wasn't even that close, it felt like. They just kind of dominated. I was like, okay, maybe this is going to be a tribe to watch here. These could be our challenge beasts. It wasn't who I was expecting to be the win the first challenge necessarily. I would say if there was any tribe that I thought was going to struggle in the challenges just based on not necessarily having like the strongest males on their tribe, it was going to be that one probably.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like all of the tribes seemed kind of evenly stacked up with strength. But in general, yeah, that probably has like the more weaker team.
Yeah, because I feel like the blue tribe, the Callow tribe, has Jonathan, which by itself, I mean, that's all you need. And then the orange tribe has Ozzy, Joe. Like, I just kind of felt like they
Yeah.
had a couple of really strong guys, whereas this tribe, like, yeah, they have Kyle, they have Q, like,
Kyle
you're strong, but.
and Colby.
And Colby, but Colby's 51 years old now.
Yeah, that's
Colby's
true.
not Survivor Australia Colby.
Yeah.
But, still very strong, still much stronger than I will probably ever be. So that is no shade to Colby. But then after the challenge, each tribe then has to pick a representative to compete in the Fight for Supplies challenge. So this is kind of what we have seen replace Sweat and Savvy for the last couple years. I was curious to see how much of these new era inventions of the game they were going to keep for 50. And so when I saw this, I was like, okay, it seems like we're going to have journeys, we're going to have these things that we have seen added to the show in the new era, that I thought maybe, is 50 going to be included in the new era? Is it going to be the start of the next era? I kind of wasn't sure which way we were going to go, but it does feel like we are getting these elements that have been added in the last 5 years.
Yeah, no, we definitely got the journeys here in this
Yes.
episode. I wasn't sure either, but they started off right off the bat.
Yeah. Well, the Sela Orange tribe picks Ozzy, the Kalo Blue tribe picks Coach, and the Pink Vatu tribe picks Q. Now, this was very interesting because Ozzy and Coach, famously, for those who watch Survivor South Pacific, have a rivalry because they were the two returning players that season. They both kind of each led their tribes, and then they had a bit of a rivalry where Ozzy was the reason basically that Coach did not end up winning that season, that he voted for Sophie. And when they arrive to the challenge, the three of them, they talk for the first time since they played together, and they seem to bear the hatchet. They apologize to each other for the way things ended. Famously, like, they have both said things to about each other in the years since then that have indicated that there is still a bit of tension. So it does seem like this was the first time they really spoke and seemed to mend things for half a second.
I know it was a nice moment for while it lasted, of them making up and acknowledging that they both had a say in that, and that it wasn't just on Ozzy. It was also Coach saying he also apologized, so that was nice to see that. Have him saying he had bad sportsmanship and stuff like that. So I think overall it was a good moment to see that. We obviously know what happens after during this challenge that may not make them totally forgive each other now, but at least in this moment they did.
Yes. So let's get to what happened next here. For the challenge, they have to build a stick that's long enough to retrieve a key from behind a wall. It takes a long time. We see that Ozzy in the beginning thinks, "Oh, I got this. This is my challenge," and it involves a little swimming and all this stuff that is right up Ozzy's alley. But it does take a long time, and nobody's getting this key. And then finally, Ozzy does get it. It brings it right up, it drops, and then Coach swoops in and steals that key. And there goes any type of reconciliation that had happened between the two of them just minutes before. And this seems to start a bit of their rivalry back up that it feels like is going to be a story that continues in the episodes to come here.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you could even hear him say in like the confessional of he was not gonna promise anything, like I won't grab this from you, like Q said to Ozzy. And so in that moment, I was like, oh, this is some foreshadowing probably of what Coach ended up doing, and he did. He did steal it just as the final push over the edge was from Coach, so it ended up being his.
And I thought this was really interesting that it was Coach specifically, because Coach is somebody who famously, in his first season and in really every season we've seen from him in the past, prides himself on his honesty, integrity, loyalty. Like, this feels like a new coach that is going to be willing to do this. And I'm so curious to see whether this is a sign that this is how he is going to play this season, that he's going to be different. He's going to be willing to lie to people and betray to people. I am curious to see how that shapes up in the weeks to come.
Yeah, I'm curious as well.
So then Coach does win the supplies and leaves, but Ozzy and Q stay and learn that they are not going right back to camp. They are stuck on Exile Island. This island that they played the challenge on, it is now Exile Island. And that is something that we have not seen in years. Well before the new era, we have not seen an Exile Island. And I love the fact that this is back. I mean, this is a twist that I love and I think is something that I've really missed before, because this does impact the game in the sense that you, in these early days especially, this is when people are bonding, this is when people are forming these alliances that will potentially last the entire season, and to not get that time, it is really dangerous. And it's very fun, I think, to see, okay, these people that were willing to go and fight for supplies for their tribe. This was a very selfless thing that they did, and it didn't work out for them, put them in a position where they're going to be stuck there now for all night. And is that going to come back and bite them, or is their tribe going to come back and embrace them and be happy the fact that they were willing to step up and do that?
Yeah, no, I know. I was also excited to see this twist back. I felt bad in a way, but also with Ozzy and Q there, like it kind of made sense that like because they lost, they had to stay. So with that, like, and it didn't seem like, I mean, fast forwarding a little bit, but like it didn't seem like it really had that much of an impact on them, like at all. Like going back to camp, it was more just like, oh, sad you didn't get the supplies for us.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's a returning player season and there's people with previous connections already makes the impact a little bit neutered. Whereas I think if this was a all new player season, I think it would have had a much bigger impact, because now it's like, okay, the seven of us back at camp have bonded and you're the odd one out now. You're like a new person coming in here. Whereas now it's like, okay, Ozzy comes back. He still has Sari. They've known each other a long time. Like, that one night isn't going to completely override any history that you may have with this person. And I think people already also came into the season with kind of in their mind who they want to work with. Whereas in a new player season, like, yeah, you see people at Ponderosa, whatever, pregame, there may or may not be some pre-gaming going on 49, but there's a lot more that you're just really meeting these people. You're really talking to these people for the first time when you get to the beach. So I think it's a little bit different here, but yeah, I'm sure it probably played a little bit bigger impact than we see necessarily. I would have to imagine.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, then the next morning, before returning to camp, Ozzy and Q find out that one of them will have to sacrifice their vote in order to get camp supplies. So their vote that they're sacrificing is not just disappearing into thin air, it is going to the other person who will return to camp with no supplies, but with an extra vote in their pocket secretly. So they have a bit of a back and forth, and Ozzy really wants the extra vote, and he convinces Q basically to be willing to take the supplies, and that gives Ozzy the extra vote. So who do you think got the better end of the deal here?
I think Ozzy, by having the extra vote, it's more powerful than just the supplies for the camp as a whole. Like, obviously they thought only one person was going to win the supplies in general. So at that point, it's like, okay, I'm already going back empty handed. But then Ozzy goes back empty handed plus having a vote. Like that's better for his game, I think. And then Q is able to take some supplies, but doesn't have a vote.
I agree because I think Ozzy can basically like come up with some story of like, I'm really sorry, guys. Like, I here's what happened, didn't get this advice, and he can tell a very truthful story,
Yeah.
just leaving out the very last part. And Ozzy is someone, he's gonna go fishing, he's gonna find food, like they're gonna win rewards. I think that the not getting the supplies isn't going to be as huge of a deal as maybe it sounds like,
Yeah.
especially with a group of all stars. Like they all know how to do things around camp to get by without having those supplies. And on a tribe, yes, they're a little bit larger tribes than we've seen in the new era. It's 8 people instead of 6, but still, in an 8-person tribe, having 2 votes is a big deal. That's,
Yeah.
that's a lot different than like if you get an extra vote in a tribe of 12 people. Yeah, it's something, but it's not as huge. Whereas I think here it's like either he uses it when there's 8 people, or maybe he gets to keep it and use it if they keep going to tribal and there's 6, 7 people, then it'll start to matter more. And so I think that this was definitely the better end of the deal for Ozzy.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, then let's get to some of the tribe camp life that we saw on all 3 of our tribes here. So let's start with Vatu, the pink tribe. Colby and Stephanie immediately agree to work together. So the two of them know each other, of course, from Heroes versus Villains. Stephanie wasn't in the game very long, but in the 2 weeks that, or 6 days, whatever it was, that Stephanie was there, the two of them did work fairly closely together. So it seemed like a very easy thing for them to say, hey, we know each other, let's have each other's backs. And they pretty quickly, no discussion needed, are going to be in an alliance together. Then the other kind of thing that we see here in the first segment is that Colby finds Rizzo to be very annoying. And this is so much fun to me because this is the quintessential like thing that I wanted to see on Survivor 50. As someone like Colby Donaldson from season 2, who played originally when he was about Rizzo's age, 25 years old, I believe, is now having to play with somebody who 26 years later is 25 years old playing this game. And this is the old era versus new era. Perfect scenario. I absolutely loved seeing them interact.
Me too. This was a fun moment. I mean, at first I was like, no, don't hate on Rizzo because he's fun. And later on, Colby does come to find him endearing, if it feels
Yeah.
like. But overall, like at this moment, he's just like, I can't handle all the talking and all the stuff that he's sharing and all that. But it was nice to see them together.
Yeah, and like you said, later on, they do have a bit of a deeper conversation, and Rizzo says, "Oh, my dad is 48 years old, about Colby's age, and how much his dad means to him," and they have a nice moment. So it does feel like that they come around. This isn't going to be something where Colby's going to go after Rizzo because he doesn't want to be on a tribe with him and have to deal with him anymore. Like they're fine, but this is exactly what I wanted to see with Survivor 50 is these old era contestants that were about the new era players ages when they first started, but now 2 decades have passed, interacting with somebody who is just getting their start now, and it was very fun to see that.
Yes.
Then we also get our first real big alliance formed here with Genevieve, Colby, Stephanie, and Kyle. What do you think about this group? Do you feel good about it, that this is going to be something that ends up playing a big impact on this tribe, or is this going to fall apart here? Obviously, we know, I mean, no spoilers, but Kyle not going to be a factor in this much longer, unfortunately. But the other 3, do you see longevity for them working together?
I think, I mean, obviously Colby and Stephanie for sure, but I don't know how much Genevieve is gonna trust them.
Mm.
I can see her maybe working with others more closely. But I think for now she's trying to just build as many relationships as she can, and so she wants to say yes to as many alliances at that point. So I think for right now it makes sense for them to stick together.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like though that, and this is, not to get ahead, but with Genevieve when she finds her idol that she doesn't end up keeping, that she and Stephanie are the ones looking for it together, and she tells Stephanie about it right away, and they, talk about how they can use it, and so it does feel like that they formed a bond pretty quickly, and I
Yeah.
don't know that I could say that I immediately saw them working together so closely when I first saw this tribe makeup. Like I didn't think, oh, these are two people that are really going to get along and like and form be number ones for each other. But it does feel like that they are pretty close.
Yeah. I was surprised by that too.
I mean, I guess like Genevieve, the more I think about it, does kind of feel like an old era player in a way to me. So I guess I can see it now that it's happening. But yeah, that was a bit surprising to me. But we will see. But Genevieve does have somebody on this tribe that she is not seeing eye to eye with, and that's Aubrey. Now, they're the two of them to me are so similar. And I did feel like when I thought about the two of them together, I was like, they will either like be this with each other so close, or they will like try to get each other. It would be like a Genevieve and Rachel situation from
Mhm.
47, where it's like, I see you, and this camp's not big enough for the both of us, and that's kind of how it feels like it's going with the two of them, with Genevieve and Aubrey.
Yeah, I know. I want them to work together so badly, but unfortunately, it does not seem like that will be the case.
Yeah. I do think that's going to be really interesting though, because I love like that type of rivalry where it's not personal. There's like the two of them, I'm sure, will get along perfectly well in the outside world, but they are so similar in the way that they view the game and the way that they want to play that they can't have each other there because they're not going to be able to play each other. Like they see each other too well,
Mhm.
and I think that it's going to unfortunately be sooner than later that one of them has to strike on the other.
Yeah, I see that as well.
Then Q is not telling everybody that he lost his vote, but he does tell Kyle. That is the one person that he decides to confide in, that he does not have a vote anymore because of Exile Island. What do you feel about Q only telling one person, being Kyle? Do you think that that was a mistake? Because I feel like, at least, the problem with only telling like one person about this is that the longer you go without telling people, when you do end up having to probably tell somebody before a tribal council, they're going to be like, why did you hide this from me for so long? And now, obviously, Kyle's not there anymore after this episode. So now nobody at the tribe seemingly knows about this. So do
Mhm.
you think that he should have told more people, or is this maybe too dangerous if people know you're an easy person to get at first?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fault him for just telling Kyle in the beginning because he trusted Kyle and wanted to just allow someone to know the information there. But now he's gonna have to tell probably someone else in the tribe just so that it's not a totally hidden thing. And in the case that maybe some people will get mad and later on if they find out that he doesn't have a vote. So I don't know. It's interesting though because I would have thought he would have told more people than just Kyle in this moment, but I can see why. He just wanted to keep it small.
Yeah, I do think it's hard when it's so early on because you really don't know who you're going to end up working with. It's like it's day two at that point. Your alliance could change 6 times before you go to tribal first, and so it's like, do I tell the people that I think I'm working with right now? Do I wait a day or two and kind of see how things organically form and who I'm connected with after a certain point? Then I tell them. I think that you can get away with probably going another 2 or 3 days, but I think if you get to like day 8 and you're going to tribal for the first time and now you're just telling people about something that you lost your vote on day 1, that's going to be if it's me, unless this is really like I know that we just recently formed this alliance, I'm going to feel a little some kind of way about like, I've been working with you for a week now. Why are you just telling me this? Because this completely changes our entire strategy. And if I had known about this days ago, then we wouldn't have wasted hours talking about these strategies that don't work anymore because you don't have a vote.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really gonna be important in the votes and overall what they'll be able to do. So we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah. Well, then let's move over to the Blue Kello tribe. So, really, we don't see much strategy from this tribe. We probably see the least from this tribe of really all 3 tribes, but especially in the first segment, like it is just everybody is excited to have Jonathan because he's so strong, and they're all fanning out over Mike White. And that's kind of the 2 main plot lines that we get in the first segment with them. What would you think if Mike White is on your tribe? And I know you're a White Lotus fan, if I'm not mistaken. Like,
Yes.
how would you be in front of him? Like, do you think that you could put that aside, or would you just be starstruck?
I mean, it was funny to see that the moments of them all saying how much they love White Lotus, and then he was like, "Oh, I love his attention." So I think it'd be more like because he likes it, like I wouldn't feel bad to be fangirling over it and want to acknowledge my love for the show. But maybe I wouldn't bring it up like all the time. But like I guess it's just like this is also the first day, so it makes sense of it being talked about here. But it was funny to see just everyone fangirling over it. And also the fact that Mike also has abs now was a
Oh
surprise,
my
and
god.
how he's so ripped. It's
Body
like
is
wow,
tea.
yeah.
Yeah. I did not expect that from Mike White. I had no
Yes.
idea that he was so much more buff now than he was on 37. But I loved Chrissy's moment too, where she's like, "I've seen the first 2 seasons, but not season 3 yet because I don't have HBO Max." I thought that was very funny. But yeah, I think I think we all expected like, oh, everybody's going to try to get on his good side so they can be on White Lotus season 5 or whatever. I think that this needs to stop after the first day though. Like I hope that everybody got out all their questions, all their fangirl moments. Like I think if it lasts too long, then he's gonna get sick of it because I feel like he came here to get away from that world of White
Yeah.
Lotus. And yes, I'm sure he loves the attention for a minute, but like
Mhm.
after a certain amount of time, he would, I'm sure, get a little bit sick of it and start. It's going to start to feel disingenuous. It's going to start like feel like people are doing it just because they want to get on his good side, rather than, oh, I really am actually like genuinely excited and curious and all that. So, I will be curious to see if that ends up playing any impact later on in the game, but then in the second segment that we get from this tribe, that we do get some strategy. So Chrissy tells Coach that she wants to target D first, since D is a previous winner. Now, this was interesting to me because I think we all expected, sure, that the winners are going to be targets
Mhm.
immediately. But I feel like we didn't see that come up necessarily for any of the other winners except for D. Like Kyle didn't seem to get any indication that Kyle was a target on his tribe because he was a winner. Savannah, I feel like they were more like she was more of a target because they didn't see her season than it was just because she was a winner.
Mhm.
So I was a little bit surprised because I kind of felt like of all the winners, D was probably like just had the biggest chance to not have that target on her back because she was in these like she's the oldest winner of those 3. So like she has had the chance to make those relationships outside the show, whereas Kyle, his season just finished airing, and and Savannah's hadn't at all. So the fact that D was the only one that seemed to get that main target because she was a winner was a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, I agree. When I saw that, I was like, "Oh, Michael didn't think Dee would have as much of a target for this," and then right off the bat, she has a target. But I know, I don't know. I feel like sometimes the conversations though don't always like. I mean, obviously we know that they don't go to tribal also, so maybe this will kind of be a mute point later on. But maybe it's still going to be brought up that they should target Dee, but. I think she could get out of it for whatever, like, because she's built, I think, good alliance already, and so I think with that she'll be able to keep herself safe for a little bit of time.
Yeah, the fact that they avoided first tribal, I think, is huge for D because I agree with you that I think as time goes on, that having a target just because of a reason like you're a previous winner or something that happened in your previous season is really, I think, most prevalent during like the first few days that you're out there because at a certain point it's like I don't care what a person did in their previous season. If they're an ally of mine, why would I get rid of them? Versus in the first few days, it's like everything's so fluid that it's like, this is just, we need a reason to target somebody. And so this is a good enough reason. And so I think if they can avoid like the next tribal too, then I think she's fine for that reason at least. She might not be fine, but she I think can get away with it not being targeted just because she was a winner. So we'll see what happens. But then the other thing that we get from this tribe is so Coach and Jonathan form an alliance, and then also Dee, Camilla, and Tiffany form an alliance. I love these three. I am so excited for a Dee, Camilla, Tiffany alliance. I really, really hope that this sticks because I love all three of them.
I know, I really am rooting for them as well. I think that would be a great all-female strong alliance, so hopefully it continues.
And it would, in fact, make my prediction true that there will be all girls alliance this season.
True.
So I'm rooting for you
Well,
guys or girls. Don't disappoint me. Well, then we go over to the Sela Orange tribe. So Savannah does tell her tribe that she won season 49, which we knew was going to happen. Savannah had said that she was going to be truthful about this, so that was not surprising. But what did you think of everyone's reaction to it? Do you feel like you saw, and I mean this obviously this is the tribe that goes to tribal, so we know that it did not make her an immediate target right away, but do you think that it was best for her to be honest about this?
yeah, I think so. I think for her to say straight up that she won was a good move on her part to show her tribe she's not trying to hide anything in terms of how her season went. I think she did say she's not going to talk about all of the immunity wins that she had
Mhm.
from that side of it, which like no one can know that yet. Obviously, it hasn't aired for them, so they won't be able to tell unless Rizzo tells them. And I don't think Rizzo will go against Savannah and tell them if they come back together. So I think that's good on her part, just to be honest. And I didn't think the tribe really cared, like what you're saying too. Like they didn't seem that they were gonna put a target on her just because she was a winner. They were more just excited for her that she won and like now is back out on the island. Like that's really what it felt like.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. Famously, Jenna Lewis in season eight, first All Star season, which she was on, she had a strategy of get all the winners out. Like that was famously her thing from like day one. It was like Tina Wesson, winner, out. Everyone on her tribe that had been a previous winner, she was like, we got to target them first. So the fact that Jenna was on this tribe and Savannah saying this, I was like, oh God, I really hope that Jenna doesn't use this and rally the troops and use that same strategy that she had from 22 years ago. But it didn't seem like, as you said, like it really didn't seem like that was going to be a reason why everyone was going to band together and get Savannah out. I think that they probably respected the fact that she was honest with it because she could have easily lied to them and they wouldn't have found out that she was lying until potentially at the earliest until Rizzo gets to talk with them and contradict whatever story she told. So I think it's definitely best to get ahead of that. And I don't know if you saw that. I think it was Soph went on a podcast and was talking about the fact that the Tres Leches, so Savannah and Rizzo, had talked before going on for a long time about what their story was going to be, about what happened on 49. And what they had come up with was that Savannah was going to say that so they were going to say that Rizzo lost in fire, which true, and that Savannah was fifth. And that the reason why that she was invited back was because she was like a firecracker, a big personality. And that was going to be their story. But then the day that they left to go to Fiji, Soph gets word that some people, some other alumni, have been told what happened on 49, and they know that Savannah won. They don't know, or at least she didn't say who it was that leaked it. I have my theories, but apparently someone found out and told someone who was going to be on 50, and it just kind of snowballed, and they were like, as they were like getting on the plane, basically Soph told Savannah, like, you just got to be honest, just say what happened, like, don't try to hide it, because they're going to know, somebody's on your tribe is going to know that you're lying.
Wow, that's crazy that happened, but I'm glad she got the word so that she could be honest.
And I think that's the best thing regardless. Like, I
Yeah.
think just lying, like, you're not going to be able to keep your story straight 100%. And that's why I think that's why I think that people who lie about their job, people who lie about all this stuff, like, it's just better to just be honest with it, because it's worse if later on, halfway through the game, you accidentally slip and say something that contradicts your story, and then you are panicking and people are like, okay, well, you lied about this, so what else are you lying about, basically? And you were like, I believed you for this long, clearly you're a good liar. Like, I just think that it's best, like, to just say what happened, and you can leave things out. Leaving things out is different than blatantly lying. Like, I think it's good that she's not saying about her immunity wins, whatever, but I think that, like, just the main thing, you won, and that way people know you're being honest. Why would you lie if you didn't win? And then I think they can hopefully get over that and believe you and trust you moving forward.
Agreed.
Then Jenna tries to rally the tribe to get Suri out. So it does feel like Jenna is overplaying this a little bit. Like, it's so early. It's day one at this point, and she's already naming names, trying to rally the troops. Like, it just feels so early, and that really got me worried for Jenna immediately. That I was like, I mean, first I was worried for Suri, but then I was also really, though, worried for Jenna, because I was like, this feels like overcompensating for a fear that, like, you're an old school player. People are going to think you're going to play a slower game, and you haven't experienced this new era, and you feel like you got to keep up, so you're just way overplaying.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like already throwing out Cerie's name, especially, is like you're gonna bite her in the butt because obviously, when Cerie gets word, she'll do everything she can to flip it out around. So that made me nervous for Jenna as well.
Yeah, so then Devins warns Suri about this. So now Suri is aware, which I was very glad to see. Because, I mean, especially, look, no offense to Jenna Lewis, she was my first draft pick, but I really did not want Suri to be first out here. So when she got word, I was like, okay, thankfully, at least she knows. And that was the most important thing to me, was that I was really worried that she was going to have her name circulating and not even be aware of it happening and just be totally blindsided. So it's glad at least she can now start to do some work and try to get this target off of her. So Suri then talks to Ozzy, and they form an alliance. Ozzy tells her about his extra vote, and obviously Suri and Ozzy are another pair that have a lot of history. They famously played in Micronesia together. Suri and her Black Widow alliance completely blindsided Ozzy. They got all the guys out, but one of the first was Ozzy that they targeted. And then Suri and Ozzy also played in Game Changers together many years after that. So they've played multiple times together. They have a long history. And I was really happy to see that they had no reservations about working together. Like, Ozzy had no prior grudges to hold here, and just they immediately were like, we got to stick together, we're going to be each other's number ones.
Yeah, I know. I was happy to see that. I was like, yes, I like them both, so I want them to work together.
Yeah. So then So yeah, he tells her about his extra vote, and that I think that started where I was like, okay, I feel decent about this, about Surrey's chances here, because now that's 3 votes that they have if they need to use the extra vote now. And that's 3 out of 8 already. All you got to do is get one more to make a tie. And then, like, I felt like, okay, I think that they can do this. I think they can work their way out of this. But we didn't even know at this point that they would need to, that they were going to lose the tribe. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the other thing that we get from this tribe is Devon's, Christian, and Emily form an alliance. Now, Christian and Emily have a bit of history as well, not playing together, but they play Blood on the Clock Tower together all the time online. And this was not brought up on the show, but they do have a past together of playing these strategy games online. So I was not shocked to see that they were going to work together here, but I love to see Christian and Devon's little alliance because I don't think that they have any prior history, and I love to see how close they got very quickly.
Yeah, no, I love this alliance. I have both Christian and Emily on my team, so
Mm.
I was like, yes, if they work together, then they can make it far, and then maybe I'll win the draft again. We'll see.
By
But
the
I was
way,
excited to
did
see this
win
season.
our most recent draft,
Oh, true.
Molly. So
And now I'm a two-time winner, but two
yeah.
different shows. But with this alliance, I think there's potential here. I think that for the Nerd Alliance, I think this could go far.
Yeah, I really really love this group. I was debating. I didn't know whether how I felt about Devon's going into this season, but he's been fun so far. I like him, especially if he's working with Christian and Emily. I'm all in on Devon's.
Same. I feel the same.
And speaking of Christian, the last thing that we have here from this tribe is that Christian starts a fire using glasses. He takes a few people's glasses and is able to use this to start a fire. I mean, this man is incredible. Like we've seen, this is not the first time we have seen a fire made from glasses on Survivor, but it has been a long, long time. I think Keith Nail was the most recent, and that was season 29. So we're on 50 now. So if that's saying anything, it's been a long time, and it's just incredible. I mean, he's a genius.
Yeah, I know. I love this moment. It was so cool to see.
Yeah. Well, then let's get to our first immunity challenge here. So this is where we unfortunately saw Kyle injure his ankle while he is trying to scale a wall. And he gets checked out by medical here. He is clear to continue the challenge. Somehow, his tribe doesn't even lose. I was stunned by this, that the fact that he could injure his ankle here, stop the challenge, and somehow he still manages to get up that wall, which I thought that I was like, how is he ever going to get up this wall? Somehow he does, and they don't even end up losing this.
Yeah, that was incredible. I feel like this whole immunity challenge I feel like the challenges so far, at least in the first episode, like they have been difficult. Like watching these, I'm like, wow, there's like 5 different parts to this and all that. Like there's so many different layers into these challenges, which I mean makes it exciting, but also makes it more challenging and more prone for some injuries to happen. So
Yeah.
that was sad to see. But still, they made it through this challenge, so that was good.
Well, and I think something that Jeff said when talking about the challenges on this season were that he wanted them to be where not everyone does every part of the challenge. Like it's not like, okay, everyone does this and then we move on to this section. It's that, okay, you have to select a couple people to do this section of it, a couple people to do that section. And so that way everybody kind of has their moment that they are in the spotlight and they have to be in control of this one. And you have to figure out who's going to be best at this part, who's going to be best at that part. And I like that. I think that that's fun and that adds a layer of strategy to the challenges. And so even when they are physical challenges, you do still have some sort of strategy of who are we going to put in for this part. And I like that aspect of it as well. But one part that maybe their tribe wishes they had selected somebody else for was Cerie's portion of this challenge, where she is trying to throw a hook onto what was it? I don't have it written down. Sorry, but
Yeah, it was like the wooden thing, just like to hold
yeah,
the lever.
yeah. And she decided to take on this role because she had just done a very similar challenge to this on Survivor Australia, which she had filmed just like a month or two before this. But it was slightly different. Like there was like one major difference that she hadn't anticipated was going to play an effect on this that did. And it was just different enough that she just wasn't able to do it. And that was heartbreaking because Suri, of course, Suri's never been like a challenge beast, but she has certainly been decent enough in the past that she's not getting voted out because she is a liability in challenges. And so to see her struggle so much here was just like, ugh, she's already having her name thrown out there. And this got me a little bit worried again at this point that they were just going to say, we got to cut Suri here.
I know at this point I was really like, oh gosh, like Jenna's already throwing her name out there, and then now she's losing this challenge for their tribe. Like I was nervous, but obviously we know what happens later on. But in this moment, I was nervous.
Yeah, so Sela, her orange tribe, does end up losing the challenge here in large part, it seems, because of the fact that it took Suri so long to do that portion of it. So sending them to tribal council, Suri feels responsible for their tribe's loss, and you can see that she's getting emotional about it. And she never wants to be the cause for their loss, and she knows how bad of a position she could be in because of that. But Jenna does continue to push her name to everybody, but Ozzy does work to protect Suri, and he throws Jenna's name out as a possibility instead for playing too hard, too fast. And it does feel like there are people who are open to this. What do you think, though? Taking legacies out of this, taking your personal biases out of this, would you have wanted Suri to be out here because of the fact that you want to keep your tribe as strong as possible and avoid going to tribal, most likely? Or do you get at someone like Jenna, who also isn't necessarily the best at challenges, but wasn't a liability in this challenge at least, and is playing too hard too fast?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, it's so hard with this comparison, but with this, I feel like it does make sense to go for Jenna here, especially because I think that she doesn't have, or I guess maybe this could be a reason why she could stay, but she doesn't have as strong of relationships with people in the tribe. So, like, it could be easier to get her out later on versus like just the first vote. You could go for someone who maybe is a bigger threat with more connections in the rest of the tribe and also with in general in the game. But it's, I guess the challenges are such a big deal here. So like with getting out Suri, like it could matter in that way, but it also was such a specific thing in this challenge in particular that caused this. So it's just hard to think on that. But I feel like both of them are credible are reasonable options.
Yeah, I think that you go for Jenna here because if you have seen Suri's previous seasons, if you've seen her on Big Brother, on well, not the Traders, we'll take the Traders out of this, but Suri is a loyal player. It's like Suri, if you are in her alliance, if you are working with her, she is 100% loyal to you. And I think having somebody who has that reputation, who you know that if she is with you, she is with you, I think means a lot in this game. And if I feel like I am good with Suri, I don't want to get her out here just because I think that Jenna, if Jenna was somebody who, if there was somebody who was playing at the same speed as Jenna was here, but was a like Jonathan type, we'll say physically, maybe I think twice about getting rid of them instead of Suri. Because if you don't go to tribal, you don't have to vote anyone out. So I think that you don't want to get somebody out like that necessarily on day two. But I do think that Jenna is not enough of a supposed challenge beast. No disrespect to Jenna at all, but when you compare Suri and Jenna, like I think of them in a similar vein, I guess, in terms of challenge prowess potential. So I think when you get out then you have to look at them from a strategic standpoint, and I think that you see someone like Suri who you know in the past has been a pretty loyal player to her alliances, versus someone like Jenna who's just, you haven't seen her play in 22 years. And I just think you don't know how she's going to play in this era in 2026. And it's a little bit too much of a question mark, I think, when you're seeing her already play this hard this quickly.
Mhm.
I think you just probably have to cut her over Suri.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, then we get to so there's, before we get to tribal, actually, there is another option that is being considered here. So Emily and Devon's talk, and they actually consider getting out Ozzy, which I thought was very interesting. Like, I don't want to get out Ozzy here by any means. I think Ozzy is like, that's your challenge beast. Like,
Yeah.
that is the person who is going to keep you from going to tribal at all. And that, I thought, like, that would not be a move that I would want to make this early.
No, it didn't seem like that was that much of a consideration. Like I think they just like brought it up, but I don't think it would actually be like that would actually
Yeah.
happen, at least in this first tribal.
Yeah. But then we do get to tribal. Honestly, not much to talk about here before we get to the vote. There's some talk about like Jenna remarking about how the first tribal was on Borneo and how much has changed since then. A lot of talk about like, how they feel about being back for this monumental season and blah blah blah. But then Jenna is voted out in a unanimous vote. So it feels like everyone kind of ended up being on the same page that that Jenna was playing too hard, and just best to take her out instead of Suri here, or Ozzy.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like with the editing of it, it seemed like maybe there would be more of a split vote, but seeing the
Yeah.
unanimous vote, it made sense.
I was a little surprised that it was unanimous, but when you do look back at other previous All-Star seasons, they've all kind of been people making the easy vote on the first week, and that trend does seem to be continuing here. That I think in a season like this, it's best to just get someone out who maybe doesn't have the connections and hasn't played with as many people, and is seen as somebody who's probably not going to help you that much in challenges, and especially when it's someone like Jenna who's also just came out of the gate swinging here. I think that she made it relatively easy, I guess, for them to decide to put it all unanimously on her.
Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, then the episode doesn't end there. We still had about 45 minutes left after this, and I think everybody was like, what are we going to do for 45 minutes here? Because it's not long enough to have a whole nother week of gameplay. But we see that it starts out with a journey. So someone from each tribe has to go on a boat on a journey here. The Blue Callow tribe picks Mike, Orange Sela tribe picks Savannah, and the Pink Vatu tribe picks Colby. So they immediately discover that only two of them are actually going to play here. And Mike doesn't get to play and just goes right back to camp, which I felt like, why even bring him? Like, what?
It didn't make any sense when he just like got onto the sand and then right back immediately into the boat.
Yeah, like, okay. I think honestly, he should have probably gotten some sort of advantage or something. That I
Yeah.
think that would have been a fun little twist. That okay, one of you doesn't play, and maybe you get something secretly that was an advantage for not playing, or maybe even like, I don't know. I don't know. I just think it was weird that they brought three out only for two to play, but then Savannah ends up winning the game there. It was like one of those where you had to stack something, and the first person to have the whole thing fall ends up losing. So they think that it's just that the person who wins doesn't get anything, but they just get to keep their vote, whereas the person who loses their vote. So Colby ends up losing his vote here, but then after they finish, they see a note that says for Savannah to stay. And Colby leaves. Savannah stays on the island for a second longer because she finds out that she also gets to win a block a vote. That she finds out that the viewers decided to pick dynamic advantages for this season, whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, I guess I voted for that. I was like, I don't remember what that was, but
I think I picked the middle one with that. Which I
uh,
don't remember what the wording was on it, but dynamic was like the farthest like uh I don't even know how to like describe the scale of this, but it was like that whether advantages were going to have not much power, like medium power, or a lot of power, and the dynamic was the one that was like a lot of power. Is a block a
Oh,
vote a lot
okay.
of power?
Yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm curious too. I think I did the medium then too, but
I
that
feel
is
like a
interesting.
steal a vote would have been a lot of power.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know.
But she ends up winning that. And she also now knows, she's the only one who knows that the results of that poll. So I
Mhm.
thought that was interesting. Like, that
Mhm.
to me, even in and of itself, is an advantage. Like, if you find, like, I think that's maybe what they should have done. I think would have been interesting here is that yes, of course, like everyone is going to know whether they get rice or supplies or whatever. Everybody's going to know that. But I think just like even getting a note, if Savannah had gotten a note and said, here are the results of all the polls or something like that, that's a huge advantage to know there's idols in the game. There's advantages that are going to have dynamic power that whatever the other results were, I think that's a huge to have that information and see who you share that with. I think would have been very interesting and maybe better than actually even giving her a power here.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. I feel like it was interesting to see that, but I don't know. It's gonna be. I mean, another person losing his vote, so that's obviously not going away in this game.
God, just let people vote. Oh my God, why are we like next? They're gonna be Jeff is gonna be asking for their IDs before they vote. Like, come on, just let people have votes. It's so much more interesting than just seeing like, okay, here's a tribe of 6 people and 3 of them can't vote. Like,
Yeah.
anyways, maybe in the 50s we'll fix that. But then we get to the Vatu tribe, and the rest of the episode is spent on the Vatu tribe. So there's two major events that happen here. First is that Genevieve finds the Billie Eilish boomerang idol, which we have been joking about the name ever since the 49 finale when they had the preview and we found out that they were going to be these celebrities with these advantages. And the first one here is from Billie Eilish herself. So what the Billie Eilish boomerang idol is that Genevieve now has to give the idol to someone on another tribe. And if they go home with this idol in their pocket, it boomerangs right back to Genevieve. So she talks with Stephanie and Kyle, and they talk through some options, but eventually decide to give it to Ozzy. So, two-part question here. First of all, what do you think about this Billie Eilish boomerang idol and its power? And what do you think of their decision to give it to Ozzy?
I think it's interesting. I like that it has the level of. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen to the idol, whoever you give it to, and if they get voted out or if they're going to use it. So there's that level of it. And then obviously, then if they don't use it or that goes home in their pocket, then you get it back, and that's exciting for you. But then also it can build trust with another person from a different tribe, whoever that is. Then if you work together later on or you come back all together, then you can tell them, oh, I gave it to you, and then you can build that. And I think it was interesting that they chose Ozzy just because obviously he does have that history of not playing it. So I think that was a factor into their choice, and then also the fact that he's such a big threat and that he's just probably thinking that he could go home at some point soon so she can get the idol back in her pocket. So I think it made sense here. And I mean, now Ozzy's got a lot of power. So it's going to be interesting to see how he uses it or doesn't.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about the Billie Eilish boomerang idol. I think that it's interesting. When I first heard it, I actually liked it a lot because I kind of, especially on a season like Survivor 50, I like the cross tribal interactions. But I have a little bit of a feeling about Ozzy just being handed an idol. Like, I think that you need to work for things like idols in this game. And Genevieve did all the work. And then for Ozzy to just now do nothing and get it when he already has an extra vote, which look, he's a Surrey ally, so I have absolutely no problems with this, just personally. But I think that it maybe would have been more interesting if like this worked where Genevieve gets to give the opportunity for Ozzy to earn an idol. And
Mhm.
Ozzy has to compete in some individual challenge. And if he wins it, then he gets this idol. If he loses it, then it boomerangs back to Genevieve. Because then I think it would have been interesting to where Genevieve would decide whether she wants to give this to somebody who she thinks actually could win it and grant some goodwill to be like, I believed in you. I knew you would be able to win this challenge and get this idol. Or does she give it to somebody who she thinks would have the best chance of not winning it? And then she gets the idol herself. So I think that could have been an interesting dilemma in deciding who to give it to. And also then whoever gets it has earned it. So that would have
Yeah.
been, I think, my preference, but it's fine.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just the fact that he doesn't have to actually work for it doesn't sit right, but overall, like I like the concept of it.
Yeah, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
Yeah.
At least it's not like some super powered idol like the Tyler Perry idol where you get to use it after the votes are read and it's just literal immunity. So
Yeah,
it's better than something like that. So I'll take it.
that's true.
But then we get to the end of the episode here where
Mhm.
Jeff and the medical team come to camp and do another evaluation on Kyle. The doctor determines that it is likely that there is severe damage to his Achilles tendon, and they do end up having to remove him from the game. So this was really sad. Such a sucky way to go out. I mean, it's the right call, clearly. Kyle has had to do 2 surgeries since then. So he clearly could not have remained in the game, but it just really, really sucks to see anyone go out this way, especially on a season like Survivor 50.
I know. I agree. I feel like as soon as we saw them coming to the beach, it just was kind of obvious that it seemed that Kyle was going to be taken out just for his own health, and he needed to be able to heal, not by playing Survivor. So I mean, it makes sense, but it's still sad to see that happen. The first challenge, or first immunity challenge that he got injured
Yeah.
from.
Yeah, I mean, especially it's like it's so early in the game. Like I wanted to see Kyle play. And I mean, look, at least he already got his win. I guess it's better than if he hadn't already won and this was going to be his chance and at least he already has his million. And I do think that it's likely that next time they do a returning player season, I could absolutely see them calling Kyle back and being like, let's give you another actual chance here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think he was already, like, from what we saw from the first episode, he was already building such strong relationships with people that I really saw him going pretty far in the game. So that made it extra sad that it was like, oh no, like now he won't get a chance to play anymore. But I do hope he comes back for a future season because he deserves it.
Yeah, he seemed to be in a really good position. Like he had an alliance. Q was the only he was the only person who Q told about his extra vote. So it's like or sorry, his losing a vote. So it seemed like he had the trust of a lot of people, and I could have absolutely seen him make a deep run in this season. So it really, really sucks that he got out now. But I'm look, other than that downer of an ending, I thought this was a really great episode, and I'm so, so excited for the rest of the season.
Same. I feel like the 3 hours really flew by. I
Did.
was just like, whoa, like it's already over. But I'm so excited to see more of what season 50 has to offer.
Yes, well, we will be covering it each and every week here on Let's Chat Reality. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of our coverage on this season. And follow us wherever on all social media and wherever you get your podcast, YouTube. We are everywhere, so be sure to subscribe. And we will be back very soon, actually, just tomorrow for our Traders season finale and reunion recap. So stay tuned for that as well, and we will chat with you guys later. Bye, everyone.
Bye.